The problem for me, seeing a lot of things up close, is how much lying there is about the real causes of war. And there's a famous interview of the Nazi leader Goering in Nuremberg prison in 1945, where he's interviewed, and he talks about how leaders manufacture the fear of war and tell their populations, you're under attack, we have to go to war. And he says, he's a Nazi, remember, leader of the Nazis. He says, no poor slob off the farm wants to go fight and quite likely die in trenches someplace. So to get the public mobilized for war is not straightforward. You don't tell them the truth. You have to stoke their fear. And then the interviewer, who's a psychologist, says to him, but it's different in democracy. In democracy, people have their voice, and they can stop this, unlike the Nazi dictatorship. And Goring replies scornfully, no, it's the same anywhere. All you have to do is say you're under attack, and this is enough to create the fear to send your country into war. Very cynical by a very evil person who committed great crimes, and very accurate about how governments behave. The United States goes to war on the basis of lies. Of course, Vietnam was a war that was legalized, quote unquote, by the U.S. Congress in something called the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, which was a resolution authorizing the president to use the military based on a falsehood, on a false attack that didn't occur. It was a propaganda maneuver. The war against Iraq in 2003 was a war to take away weapons of mass destruction from Saddam Hussein, who didn't have weapons of mass destruction. The war in Syria was a secret order by President Obama given to the CIA to overthrow Bashar al-Assad. Never explained one day, one moment to the American people what was being done in their name. The war in Libya, which killed Muammar Gaddafi and led to the next dozen years of chaos, was a NATO bombing raid based on a falsehood that Gaddafi was about to attack the civilian population of Benghazi. This was a direct lie. The war in Ukraine is a war that started with the U.S. complicity in the violent overthrow of the Ukrainian president, Viktor Yanukovych, in February 2014. Why did the U.S. want to overthrow him? Because Yanukovych was in favor of neutrality, not NATO enlargement. And the project of the U.S. government was to expand NATO. This was never explained. Even Victoria Nuland, who was our Undersecretary of State at the time, was our Assistant Secretary of State, and she was the main point person in this coup. And at one point, her conversation with the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, Jeffrey, was intercepted by the Russian intelligence services, and they posted the phone call online. So we got to hear what our government was doing, and our government was conspiring in the overthrow of the Yanukovych government. And the United States never explained it and never responded to it because they're liars. That's their business. The U.S. blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, but it lied about it afterwards. It goes on and on and on. This is why we have wars. If people knew the truth, we would have compromise, we would have negotiations, we would stop the belligerency, we would stop the madmen in power, but we don't hear the truth. And then comes the question, well, what is this game about? Partly, as I said, it's about money. This war is a very big business. A lot of people make a lot of money from war. So that's one part. Second, the people that want the wars, Biden, look, an 81-year-old octogenarian who's not fighting, for him to send people off to war, no problem. And to send Ukrainians off to war, even easier. Zelensky, he's not fighting the war, but he's killing tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of his countrymen, 23,000 dead and wounded in the last month alone. Complete irresponsibility. And so you say, well, how about accountability? Well, Ukraine has martial law. Doesn't have a democracy, it has martial law. So this is, I think it does in a way go back to Kant's observation. Wars come from complete irresponsibility at the top. And we have not had the political institutional wherewithal to limit these people at the top.